So there's like a disconnect happening with what we're eating and in our bodies, and when we get sick, we're immediately assuming that doctors are going to help, you know what I mean? But in reality, you can help yourselves just by refining and tuning your diet, you know what I mean? It's very, very important. You know, I really enjoy, what I want to talk about really is to understanding food and connecting to food. You know what I'm saying? Like right now we live in an industrial age, and a lot of things are being processed and packaged. And that denatures the food quite a bit. Now we're living mammals, like all living creatures eats food like it comes to them. We're the only ones that actually process our food so much. You know, and we're the only ones that have a lot of problems with you know, our diets. I mean, animals in the wild are really healthy, you know what I mean? And they actually are very intelligent because they know what to eat because they're eating things that grow around them, you know what I mean? But we humans, we're animals too. You know, I mean, yeah, we have brains, but it's funny how we use our brains. It's really interesting to me, and I find it that, like, especially around the world, there's a problem, like a issue with food, like how we look at food, how we eat food, you know, like our intelligence behind food is kind of limited, unfortunately, ever since the industrial age happened. And, you know, other countries are better about it. I mean, I know a lot of chefs, like when I go to France or when I go to Italy or when you know, to really prestigious restaurants. I mean, these chefs are going out on walks and hikes in the wild, and they're harvesting their mushrooms, you know, the wild edible foods, and they're bringing it and making it. And that's the finest cuisine known to man, and unfortunately in America, I don't see like us being involved with what grows around us. You know what I'm saying? And I'm talking about, like, this is so important because it's like micronutrients that our body needs that actually is formed within our environments. Compared to like getting food all the way from Mexico or things that don't grow here, you know, and especially now in the springtime, it's amazing how many foods grow in the wild, and we have no concept of it, but really a lot of the micronutrients exist in those wild foods, and this has been studied. I mean, Native Americans have lived here before any of us got here, and they basically survived in the cold weathers. And what did they do? They knew how to harvest. They knew how to, you know, they would put all the food that they harvest, they would dry it, and they would put mud in it, you know, like in caves, and they would, you know, cover it so that, and then they would get to it during the winter time. So they were intelligent, and then they hunted deer and wild meat, and the importance of wild meat, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's so much deer out there, and elk, and you know, and bison, and things that are truly nutritive foods, you know what I mean? And I mean, lean protein is great, especially if it comes from good sources, like organic sources. Like a lot of factory farms are actually not quite proper. I mean, I don't like seeing animals being tortured like that, and being put in environments like that, and being fed food that is not really for them. You know, like cows are fed grains and they don't eat grains, and then they get sick, and then they're fed antibiotics, and then, you know, and then we're eating that product. You know what I'm saying? And then we're wondering, you know, why are we feeling weird or sick, or, you know what I mean? So I think we really need to pay attention to like where our sources are coming from, and of course, you know, whether you're vegan, vegetarian, or a carnivore or omnivore, I think personally speaking, it's important to eat some meat, because that's kind of how we evolved, especially in the winter time. You know, there is no vegetables growing out there, but there is animals out there. But the source that we find from animals and lean protein is very important, that we are conscious about it. Like grass-fed meat is so good for us, but yet grain-fed meat that is, you know, from a factory farm, animal factory farm, is actually not the best for us. You know what I mean? But there are, you know, ways that the animals are grazing on in the wild, and then we're eating that source of meat. That's a lot better for us, because if the animal is healthy, we're healthy. If the animal is not healthy, we're not healthy. Definitely. You know what I'm saying? Another fact is, you know, I was talking about like organic food. You know, a lot of people say, organic is more expensive, or, oh, it doesn't matter, like organic is not really organic. And, you know, and You know, quite honestly, like, have you ever visited an inorganic farm? Like all the pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, larvicides, insecticides, chemical fertilizers that they put out there is really not necessary. And the people that are working in the fields are getting affected as well. So it's altogether, it's a toxic environment, and it's not something we want to support, especially on our planet, because this is like all we got. And like we throw away so much trash. And think about it, like our children's children's children, what are they going to do? Live in a trash pit? You know what I'm saying? Like, we gotta start making conscious decisions today, and that also affects our diets and our health. You know, if you're taking care of the planet is gonna take care of you. You know what I'm saying? And you are what you eat, is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? So really paying attention to these things is so important. And more than organic is sustainable agriculture, which is things that grow around our environment. Like, there's a ton of farmers markets right now, and people are growing gardens, you know, and in their yards and things like that. And I think it's so important to actually take the time to go to farmers markets, find out where they are, go support these farmers, because we really need to support these people that love farming, and it actually does really good for the environment for that. And not to mention that, and a lot of people don't understand this, but this is science, you know. I mean, studying geophysics, I really studied this. Soil biology, like if there is no organic matter in a soil, right, and then you grow the produce in that soil, it's not going to yield organic matter that has high mineral and vitamin content. Does that make sense? So a commercial crop is not going to yield nutritive vegetables and fruit, period, because there is no organic matter in the soil for it to do that. However, if something is grown organically or sustainably, or permaculture-wise, then there's a lot of organic matter in the soil, which yields a lot of nutrient-dense foods. You know what I mean? And this has been studied. They took inorganic food and organic food, and they tested it, and there's like the percentage of minerals and vitamins are so much higher. You know what I'm saying? And this is like actual fact. And also, sprouting things. You know, like raw almonds, for example, or raw walnuts. In nature, they're not really supposed to be eaten raw, actually. They're supposed to be soaked in water so that they're hydrated. And once they're hydrated, it breaks up these enzymes, because the plant builds up potential energy in order to grow into a plant. So it increases in nutrients by like 600%. Like chia seeds, for example, once you soak them in water and you sprout them, that increases in nutrients by 600%. You know what I'm saying? And that's something that no one ever thinks about, you know, because a seed is so intelligent, it protects itself from invading species so that its kind can last. So basically, when water goes into it, it fools it, because it thinks, oh wow, now I'm going to grow into a plant, so now I can let go of my guards and I'm going to flourish. So it like, you know, breaks up the enzymes and the phytic acid in it, and it builds potential energy. So that's a lot of nutrients in that, and then it sprouts into a plant. Does that make sense? So that I feel like everything that is processed is actually not necessarily nutritive. Like, bioavailability of nutrients in it is not there. Does that make sense? And you know, all cultures.
So, Omar, let me jump in. Is it okay if I jump in fast? Because I think you went over a ton of great points, and like, I'm pretty much tracking with you, but I'm not sure if everyone. I think we could dig in a lot deeper, because there's like a ton of great content, and what you just hit on, like kind of the differences between, you know, the nutrient content and the health benefits of processed versus unprocessed. So can you go through maybe some of those points in a little bit more detail, and maybe just start off with why is grass-fed meat so much better? Maybe dig into that a little bit more, if you don't mind, on why grass-fed meat would be preferred versus like grain-fed, more commercial operation.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, when the cows are eating grass, that's what they normally eat. So the cows are a lot healthier, and when you feed cows grains, they get sick because their body can't really metabolize all that, and so they're fed antibiotics, and basically that's what we're eating. You know what I'm saying? So and then the grass is actually what they eat. So the content of amino acids in the meat, the actual meat is healthier. You know what I mean? It's cleaner and it's leaner with less fats because of the grains and what grains do. I mean, grains are like carbs, right? And even when we eat a lot of grains, we gain weight. You know what I'm saying? But it's more fat than lean protein. Is that
yeah,
what?
So a
is
better,
that,
so a better, sorry, so a better.
So I think
a leaner, a better cut, a better, higher quality of protein.
Yeah.
Is there much to the like omega-6 and omega-3? Is there a better ratio in grass-fed versus grain-fed?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I don't know exactly that answer. I haven't like run through a test machine and figured it out. But normally I think isn't the concern is like the protein in it. I mean, rather than you're talking about the omega-6 and 3 and 9, which is in fat.
Yeah.
And that normally doesn't come from meat necessarily. I mean, normally that comes from like fish oil, or it comes from chia seeds or flax seeds, right? And that's kind of what I was gonna do is create like a recipe for you guys like in the morning, so that you can have something healthy with micronutrients in it, so that you're eating these bioavailable nutrients, which is necessary. I mean, you do need proteins, you do need healthy omegas, but you also do need those micronutrients that come from like chlorophyll, that comes from greens and things like that. Sorry, because I lost my
that was great.
my
And that was
track
the next one I had up there, was something you said initially. Can you go through a little bit more of, or maybe just say it again, talk a little bit more about the micronutrients, some of the health benefits, and then why organic would have a better micronutrient profile than
so yeah, so basically, well, anyway, so sorry, I'm getting. I just wanted to finish what I was talking about before you, because it all leads to that. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm kind of like going through this process to end in that. So anyway, so the micronutrients, is what I was talking about, and the importance of these micronutrients, right? So like when I'm saying like processed foods is not really bioavailable. Like when you buy things in a package, it doesn't necessarily digest properly in your system. And all cultures ferment things, like they have fermented foods, and fermentation and probiotics is very important, because you see your gut flora is so important to understand, because sometimes we eat food and we're not really metabolizing it because of the lack of probiotics. And I don't know if you understand this, but all your ancestors didn't have refrigerators. So we humans really need a lot of probiotics, because that's what our guts are used to. Like cultured butter, raw cultured butter in Europe is what they did. In Asian countries, they have kimchi and sauerkraut. In Germany, they have pickles and radishes and all these sauerkraut too. Yeah. Sauerkraut. Yeah, and then kimchi in Korea, but and natto in Japan, which is fermented soy. So you know what I'm saying? So all these are really important, and if you're eating a lot of processed foods, you're not really eating food that has these enzymes to help digest it in your system. Your intestinal tract is like a garden, you know what I mean? You need to feed that garden compost so that the garden can be really fertile, so it can, digest the food properly. And your intestinal tract is 12 times your length. People don't understand that. It's like your intestines are all jumbled up in there, right? And if you're eating a lot of like wheat and grains, go ahead. Sorry.
But why, when you see cultures that don't refrigerate things, how can they eat that and not get sick, and we do? Like
Eat
raw
what?
Chicken, cooking, in the
Well, they normally, they don't, I'm not talking about that kind of refrigeration. I mean, normally they would kill the animal right there and then and eat it, right? Okay. They always keep it alive, even, because I grew up in Africa too, and normally when they catch bush meat, they call it, they would put it in a cage until they're ready to eat it, because it's really hot there. Okay. Does that make sense? I'm not saying like refrigeration like meat or things like that. I'm just talking about like, like ways that they harvest food and ferment it in order to be able to use it for a long time. Does that make sense? Yeah. And I mean, even in the Middle East, they take the lard, the fat of animals, and they put meat in it, right? And then they preserve it, and it's preserved in the lard so it doesn't go bad. Does that make sense? But what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of like probiotics and enzymes. So understanding these things is very key for your intestinal tract, so that when you're eating food, you're actually digesting the food and it's going through you and not sticking into your gut. And the older you get, the more your gut is stuck, and then you get a lot of problems from that because you're feeding unhealthy bacteria. So when you eat food, the unhealthy bacteria in your gut is flourishing, and you don't want that. Your gut is like your river of life in your system. You know what I mean? Because these are very, for me, that's so important to understand that gut, right? So now that you're working out, right, and you're utilizing nutrients. You need nutrients. You need healthy fats. You need healthy proteins. Where are you going to get those sources? And that's kind of what everything I talked about up until this point is to tell you that, okay, so now that you know all this I explained it all really fast, but at least you understand where I'm coming from and what I'm trying to say, right? Are you guys all in sync with me? So basically something great to do is, of course, like probiotics, get probiotics, increase your sauerkraut or learn how to make it, you know what I mean? Pickles and things like that. Learn how to introduce into your diet fermented foods, right? And then, so what I like is also greens. Greens is so important. People don't understand. Chlorophyll is so important. Your blood hemoglobin is, the central molecule of your blood is iron, and that's why it turns red in the presence of oxygen. But in greens, it's exact same thing, but the central molecule in greens is magnesium, and it stays green. So really, greens are very important. It's like feeding your body liquefied sun energy, and you really need greens and chlorophyll, especially when the summertime and there's a lot of sun. Your cells need help, right? So your living body, your cells are designed to digest bioavailable foods is what I'm trying to say. And so something great to do is what I do, in the mornings. You can take some chia seeds, you can soak them in water, and literally like chia seeds will increase in size by 5 times when you put water. So let's say I put this much chia seeds and fill this bottle up with water. By the next day, this whole bottle will be filled with chia seeds. You know what I mean? And it's really cool. And you could do that. You can, you could have walnuts and you can soak them in water at night, and then you can have figs and dates and soak that in water as well. So you're hydrating everything. And then in the morning, you can mix them together and make yourself like a cereal. And this is all bioavailable, high in omega-3, 6, and 9. And really good fruit. The fruit is really good for the fibers. You know what I mean? And these are things that actually your body just accepts and can process so well. Another thing is I like to take like some good greens to understand that are really good for you is something like parsley, cilantro. Cilantro is actually helps chelate you, so it takes heavy metals out of our bodies. Kale, chard, romaine lettuce, collard greens, deep leafy green vegetables. Those are all really, really good. If you want to saute them, you could. If you want to, eat them raw, you can. And sometimes if you want to make a salad with them, I normally like to use lemon juice and crushed garlic and olive oil, because that helps break it up too and soften up the greens. Or what you do is in the morning, I like to take, and I think we should do in future classes on how to make food so that it's you know what I mean? It makes it easier, especially because I know a lot of people are well, where's the recipes? Because it's hard. You understand this concept, but how do you apply it? You know, and that's kind of what I do is I apply it. You know what I mean? So one thing I do is, for example, if I soak the chia seeds and I leave a jar in the fridge and I put like this much chia seeds and I fill the jar up with water and I mix it and I leave it in the fridge. So it stays in the fridge and it's good for like a week. So, and as long as you don't double dip your spoon in it, you know what I mean? Like if you're doing something and then you're double dipping, then it goes bad faster. But if you are clean about it and you just use that clean spoon to scoop the chia seeds and put it in your blender, and then you can take something like parsley and kale, for example, and you can put that in the blender and then use like strawberries and blueberries and put that in the blender and a little bit of water and blend it and drink it. You know what I mean? And that's micronutrients. That's what I'm talking about. That's like so good for your system. You know what I'm saying? That your body can digest. Now, fruit, like a lot of people don't eat fruit because you gain weight or it's like too much sugar, right? Well, I'll tell you what, a lot of fruit like watermelon, if it doesn't have seeds, it's all hybridized. And it's only in America that I've seen a lot of fruits without seeds, like grapes. There's a lot of seedless grapes. But really, you need the seeds of the grapes in order to help digest the sugars. You know what I'm saying? But like seedless grapes, seedless watermelons, these are very high sugar foods, which actually don't really benefit us much. Well, yeah, they eat. I mean, in Europe and in everywhere I've been, everyone eats the seeds too. It's like part of the grape. You know what I mean? It's just that we're not used to it here because everything they take the seeds out. Does that make sense? So better like cantaloupes are great. You know, they're very nourishing. They're very high in B vitamins. You know, but normally cantaloupes you kind of want to eat it by itself. You know, and that's another thing is understanding like the different foods, like how to like what your body can digest better. You know, like for example, like lean protein, like steak and a salad is like perfect. You know what I mean? Because it really helps. But if you just eat like steak and potatoes without greens, then that's like your body is different enzymes and your body is trying to digest. You know what I mean? So always have fresh greens with your protein. That's what I think. And it's always nice to use lemon juice for me and olive oil because lemon juice actually helps break down things too in our body, and it's very alkaline in our bodies as well. Now, if you have any questions, like I don't know if Josiah, if you have any questions or let me.
Can you make your own fermented vegetables?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's so easy. We can do a class on just how to do kimchi. It's the best. I love doing it. It's so you like there is bok choy, and these greens that you never use or napa cabbage and bok choy and onions and red bell peppers and Asian pear or pear. So you just chop it all up, and then I take ginger, garlic, and toasted sesame oil, and I blend it, and pepper, and then I put it and I mix it with sea salt and I mix it in with all that vegetables. And then what you do is you take a glass jar, but you want to make sure the glass jar, you have like a tray, and then you put the glass jar and then you put all that in, and then you press it in really hard, and then you take something on top of that to really make sure it's pressed down, and then you cover it. And then the next day all the liquids come up, and then it starts bubbling, and then in a couple of days you literally have kimchi. It's like a fermented food.
You don't put vinegar.
No, you don't need to put vinegar. It'll naturally become like vinegar. You know what I mean? It'll start fizzing, and it depends on like also the ingredients, like what you put in it. But that's a Korean recipe because I love Korean food, so I just like how they have, you know, the toasted sesame oil with the ginger and garlic and a little bit of soy, you know what I mean?
What about probiotic foods? I know yogurt has probiotics in it. What else would you recommend?
So the thing about yogurt
But
is
not
a
all
lot of yogurt is pasteurized. If you can get raw, unpasteurized yogurt, then yeah, you're getting the probiotics. But a lot of yogurt is pasteurized, so there's not a lot of probiotics in it.
Even like the Greek yogurts?
Yeah, it's all pasteurized. They have to put it through these high heat mechanisms that actually destroy all the enzymes. So,
We get the probiotics.
so probiotics, it's either in Whole Foods or
It's like a supplement. It's what
yeah,
it is, right?
it's a supplement. It's a, I know, but I think it's actually very natural, and to do that, it's in the refrigerated sections. Also, I mean, you could get sauerkraut, and some you could make it yourself, or you can get it from the grocery store. And not all of the sauerkrauts are actually necessarily pasteurized. You know what I'm saying? So if you really want your probiotics, you should do that. But I think in the end, it's easier to do your own sauerkraut. But I don't know, a lot of people don't like taking time to making food for themselves. And I'm surprised by that. I don't, they want quick, easy fixes, And sometimes like your diet takes work. It's like working out. You can't expect your body to be healthy if you're not taking an hour of your day to go work out at 212. You know what I mean? So the same thing is, if you really want a healthy lifestyle, you gotta take at least half an hour to an hour of your day making your food. That's important, like connecting with your food. You know what I mean? Rather than just going out and getting random things that you don't know where it came from. It's actually pretty toxic,
Omar, do you think that the meats and the poultry at someplace like Whole Foods that says, cage-free, happy, all that, is that really, are we being bamboozled, or is it real?
Sometimes some of it is real, some of it is not. But they can't just make claims, because they actually do get tested. So for example, or like the USDA organic symbol on it, well, if you look at the regulations of USDA inspections, they actually are very strict, and they will go to your farm and they will check all these points that they want to make sure that you're legit and you're organic. And that's why it's more expensive, because they have to pay for those certifications. Does that make sense? So if they're having something that says, cage-free or wild-free, I would normally, what I do is I like to research them first and then make my decision. But normally it is better. It does taste better to me when I do eat free-range chicken than chicken that comes from anywhere. Does that make sense?
I think it does too, but I guess I've said to some friends, well, I don't eat that much beef, and mostly I get my chicken at Whole Foods, and I'm like, oh, you're getting ripped off. And I feel like it tastes different, and I feel like it's probably out there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would rather support, something like that than something that is totally factory farmed. I mean, I don't know if you guys have looked at videos on how, like, the factory farming of animals is. It's pretty horrible. And then the animals are sick in the cages too. They're not like, you know what I mean? When you put so much, I mean, chicken, they have their own social order, you know what I mean? And then you're cramming them all in one cage, and it's just, and if you look at the videos that I've seen, at least, it's like they're really sick looking, you know what I mean? And then it's just mass productions, and we're all eating that. You know what I'm saying? So they get sick, they all get sick. So they are all fed antibiotics. They're all fed steroids. They're all fed things. You know what I mean? And then we're eating that, and we're putting that all in our system. You know what I mean? And you wonder why we're getting so sick or obese, or, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's just, we got to be aware of these things. You know what I mean? And I personally, I love grass-fed steaks. It's like, it's so clean. It feels good. It tastes good. It tastes a lot better than you would get something from a random grocery store that is like factory farmed animals. And do you guys have any, do you have any questions, you guys, about like a recipe or something, or what?
So I know you say that farmers markets, you can get a lot of produce. But are there like local butchers or meat places that you can get?
Yes.
So where are they?
Yeah. Oh my God. So seriously, you go to farmers market and you will find there's so many meat farms that are grass-fed beef.
And they do sell it there?
Yes, there's lamb, there is goat, there's all kinds of like, you know, llamas. There's all kinds of meat there. It's amazing, and it's all grass fed. They will say it's grass fed. You know what I mean?
They'll sell you like
Yeah, there's like.
whole cow, you know, like a whole cow.
Yeah, you know, there's a place called Drake Family Farms actually, and they sell like raw goat milk, and they say raw goat milk is better for us than, you know, but you know, and I know a lot of people are scared of raw because everything needs to be pasteurized, but you know, dairy is a lot more digestible when it's unpasteurized. It's just a fact.
So there's a website called It's Local Utah.
Oh, okay.
And if you look that up, it lists all the places where you can get various products. Cool. So,
Local Utah. Yeah. There's amazing like I swear every time, and there's cheeses too, like really good cheeses. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like I think that's the way to go. Like, I mean, and then there's winter farmers markets, so you can go to in the winter time and get your meat too. You know, I highly recommend that route. Absolutely. You know.
So if you see Swiss chard at the farmer's market, and that's really good, would you think to make it, like eat them as raw greens with a lemon, garlic, and olive oil dressing? Would that
No,
happen?
for
Like,
me,
or what do you do?
no, for me, chard, I like to saute it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it depends on what you're after, but because in Lebanon we take the chard, the center piece of the chard, and we chop it up and we boil it, and then we mix it after it's boiled. Then we mix it with a tahini, garlic, lemon juice, and olive oil, and sea salt, and it's like this nice, you know, mixture, and then you know we eat it like that. So there's all kinds of ways, you know, like to do chard, and sometimes you can just take the chard and make chard soup with you know, beets and chard and you know, whatever vegetable like mushrooms, you know, and you can and then sometimes you can take, like, I love broth, bone broths. So you can take like you know, like a piece of lamb, you know, like a lamb shank or something that you buy from the farmer's market, you know, and you can boil it, and then take that water and put it in your soup, you know. And that's kind of what my mom used to do for us when we were kids, and that's what they do in Lebanon, is they take bone broth, so they boil it, and then they take vegetables like broccoli and zucchini and carrots, and then they steam it, and then she mashes it with the bone broth soup, and it's like it's so good for kids and for the bones and to make them very healthy and strong. You know what I mean? So there's all kinds of, you know what I mean? Those are like baby food, you know, instead of getting it from a.
I don't have any jars.
Well, no, I'm just saying, you know, because I remember. And like a lot of people feed their kids, like if they can't breastfeed, they'll feed them, you know, formula. And it's like, wow, have you ever seen the ingredients in the formula? It's like, it's kind of wild how we trust that, you know, and instead of us to just make your own, like take hemp seeds and raw goat milk and blend it up and feed that to your child. I think that would be a lot better than all that processed stuff. But anyway, so it's up to you and how you're feeling, of course. I don't want to, you know, but yeah. So I mean, I think the next step for sure would be like how to make the food, because I think that's kind of the, like, you understand what's healthy, but how do we actually make it, right? And it's not just necessarily raw.
So you were talking about the phytic acid, like in why you sprout
Phytic acid?
your
Yeah.
seeds and things like that. Is there other things to think about with nutrient bioavailability with your vegetables? Are there other certain vegetables you should like cook more often?
You know,
is there just like the raw Swiss chard, and if it's
yeah, you know, I think that's a very good question, because I really think it's up to you and your gut, because everyone digests food differently. Like what's good for me is not necessarily good for you. Like some people, they eat greens and they have a terrible stomach cramp, you know, or they get bloated. You know what I'm saying? But I also like to challenge people to say, hey, if you are not able to digest these things, maybe it's time for you to consider an intestinal cleanse. Like maybe there's so much gunk in there that when you eat these greens, it's so much fiber that it's fighting its way through your gut and it's creating all these problems. You know what I mean? Maybe it would be wise to figure out how to do an intestinal cleanse. And no one talks about these things, but like colonics, like these are things that are important because, like I said, our intestinal tract is so long, and over time of eating a bunch of junk food, like from when we were young to, you know, like we get clogged. Like, listen, even our cars, we do the air filter, we clean the air filter, we have to, you know what I mean? Like we have to maintain our cars, right? I mean, or else we can't drive anymore. Our bodies are the same thing. We only have this precious life, and how do we want to live? How do we want to feel? You know what I mean? And that's why it's so important to understand that we are like cars. We do need our filter cleaned, like our liver. I mean, the liver processes all the environmental pollution and the food we eat. I mean, I'm telling you, the liver sifts through everything. Don't you think the liver deserves sometimes to be cleansed, or to like eat foods that support the liver? You know what I mean? And that's why, like, it's kind of fascinating to me that in the springtime, so this is how amazing nature works. Nettle grows wild, dandelion grows wild, prickly lettuce grows wild. All these herbs all of a sudden grow wild. But guess what? All of these herbs are actually meant to cleanse our intestines, and the native people, like from the winter time, from eating all the deer or whatever it is that they had to eat to you know, they eat a lot of fat and things like that. Then when the spring comes, it's like a natural cleanse that happens. You know what I mean? And so a lot of them will start gathering all these sprouted foods that are growing out there, and it kind of, they eat it and it helps flush their kidneys and liver from the winter time. You know what I mean? Like all cultures like do cleanses in the springtime, because that's when, you know, you're done from the winter, and then the body is wanting to get healthier so that it could survive in the summertime. You know what I mean? It's like it's kind of an interesting process that happens in nature, and I wish we were more in tune to these things. But like milk thistle is really good for the liver. You know what I mean? And I mean, if you don't do these little cleanses in your organs, then your body can't quite digest food properly, you know, and your bile isn't functioning properly. Your insulin level isn't, you know, working properly. I mean, and that's another thing about like our insulin to metabolize sugars, is like we only have a certain amount of insulin per lifetime, you know, and so, you know, so if we're eating a lot of sugar, like you're using a lot of insulin, and then you're depleting your system. You know what I mean? So it's I mean, the body is very complex, you know, and I believe that we are our greatest doctors. You know, you don't need the medical system to like play with your body. You're more intelligent than that. Like your body's intelligent, you know, nature is intelligent, and when you trust it, it really works. You know, like I've seen a lot of people reverse cancer. You know, I know no one talks about these things, but no one, you know, wants to learn about these things, because, you know, they think it's like a doomsday, you know, but there's a lot of illnesses that are reversible just by us tuning into our bodies and understanding how the liver functions, how the kidney functions, how the spleen functions, how, you know, like we have a pretty incredible system, and, you know, it's unfortunate that we don't really understand.
Just one more question.
Am I going off track?
No, I think it's great. But so I could see someone listening to this and being like, all right, that's great. Like, I know it's to eat healthier.
So what do I do?
One thing that really stuck with me, what you said, was how, you know, a healthy gut promotes a healthy immune system.
Yeah.
You know, and even if someone's like, well, I'm just worried about my DEXA scan, and I want to lose my, you know, 4% body fat or whatever, and I'm just going to exercise harder.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's important to remember when you exercise, you know, you're breaking the body down, you're causing this inflammation. And so if you have a healthier immune system, you can work harder, work out more,
recover faster.
So what are some things that we can do to have a healthier, I mean, you talked about it a little bit more, but are there other things we can do to support a healthier gut so that we have a healthier immune system and can exercise harder and things like that, recover faster?
Well, I mean, the whole point of a healthier gut is basically understanding the flora, your intestinal flora, which really is having high enzyme foods. Like the more enzymes you put into your body, it's kind of like you're giving your body life, more life force. You see what I'm saying? The more, like when we eat food, depending on what food we're eating, if it's highly processed, well, your body has to exert so much of its enzymes and life force to digest it, and that's why we're exhausted. You know what I mean? However, if you eat foods that have enzymes, then you feel more energy, and that's what kind of you're supposed to be feeling when you eat. You're supposed to feel energized, not depleted.
And are those just fermented foods that have high enzymes?
Fermented foods, raw foods, or that's why I'm saying every culture with their cooked foods, they always had something that is like sauerkraut. You know what I'm saying? Or natto, or like in Japan, like every culture, like if you're eating a steak and potatoes, have some sauerkraut with that. That's gonna really help assist digestion. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And
so more fermented foods, and
yeah,
less processed
really,
foods to help with that gut
yes,
health and
you really need
okay.
or probiotics. It's so important. That's why I know you don't want to go get supplements, but it's hard if you don't know how to make your own sauerkraut. You kind of need to go and get yourself some probiotics. And eat that after food. Just take a few pills of that, and it really will help digestion in your stomach. I mean, that's just. It's very interesting how, like, in our food today, there's nothing that will help aid. Even in India, what they do is when they eat their curries, they always have yogurt with their curries. Like, you'll never go to a restaurant without seeing a yogurt there. You know what I mean? Because so every culture has its like little probiotic thing with it. You know what I'm saying? But somehow over time we lost that, and so for eating foods that don't have that's kind of why it's important to always have a little bit of that in your diet. I think it's very, very important. It'll really help, because you're. So I love working out, and I just feel so energized after I work out, But what's more important is the foods I eat after I work out. You know what I mean? Like if after I work out I go home and put greens and chia seeds and protein, like a whey protein, and berries, and drink that. I mean, think about it. Your body is it's really gonna utilize that. But if we go home and eat oatmeal with sugar, it's like really, like, is that what your body is gonna really benefit your body? Like, how are you feeding your body micronutrients, vitamins, like minerals, like, you're because I feel like a lot of people are eating empty foods nowadays, and just to fulfill, okay, this is my carbs, or I got my protein, or I got my fat, but like no one talks about like those micronutrients, like chlorophyll, the vitamins, the minerals. Where is that coming from? Especially if you're not drinking, well structured water, spring water that has all its minerals in it. We don't have that. We're drinking, water that doesn't have minerals in it. So how are we getting our minerals? I mean, minerals are what composes our bodies. We're composed of minerals, and all the minerals in our bodies are also in nature, like are in greens, or in, what I'm saying? So it's like, that's kind of why I think it's important to understand that. Like, it's a lot of people are worried about protein. Like, everyone talks about protein, people come into my restaurant, and I'm so sorry, but they're a little obese, and they're worried about their protein. They're like, I want to make sure I got my protein. And I'm like looking at them going, oh, I hate to say it, but it's like, maybe it's okay if you don't have protein today. I don't know, you know what I mean? It's like we're so wired, like in a way, and we forget those different nutrients that are as important. I mean, I hate to say it. It's just, it's like, I just think we're eating empty foods, and then our cells, like, how are you protecting your cells from the sun? How are you supporting your liver, your kidneys, that need all those micronutrients to survive. So anyway, I think it'll be cool to like learn how to, like, go to YouTube, type sauerkraut. I mean, there's a million YouTubers, will show you how to do sauerkraut, I promise. It's so easy. Or kimchi, or, you know what I mean? It's like, and just add that, like, put that in your fridge, and every time you eat food, even if it's processed foods, have a little kimchi. It's gonna help digestion, you know what I mean? And yeah, I mean, some of us are so busy that we have to eat those processed foods. I mean, I get it. It's whatever you want, but just add those things into your diet, and I think your body can process food better.
So, kombucha, I know,
Yeah.
is supposedly supposed to have probiotics.
Yeah.
But is it actually worth it? Because sometimes they have higher sugar content.
Yes,
too.
that's the
So,
thing.
like, how do you determine a good kombucha, and is it a substitute?
Look at
for
the
probiotics?
grams per sugar,
And
because
how
some
many are you supposed to
kombuchas.
have in a serving? Like,
Well, it depends. I mean, I don't like super sweet things, so kombucha is too sweet for me. So I kind of stay away from kombucha.
okay.
But a lot of people love kombucha, and I mean, it's much better to drink kombucha than something else, right? Because you want those probiotics.
Okay.
And
So is it sourced?
yeah, so it's fermented. So I think kombucha is great, and I'm surprised because now when you go to Smith's and they have kombucha now. So it's great. It's like we're really moving forward in a lot of ways. Organic sections are growing too, before. I mean, I remember when I opened my restaurant, everyone thought I was crazy. They did. Everyone thought, like, because that was like 12 years ago. People were like, you know what I mean? But it took my restaurant to wake up a lot of people. They would go there and be like, I feel energized. That's, you know what I mean? It triggers them. They're like, I should be eating more like this because this is, you know what I mean? It's worth it. Like when you eat food, you want to feel energized. You don't want to feel like depleted and, tired. And, I mean, it's just, but I think the next step is definitely like learning recipes. You know what I mean? So it's easy, because a lot of people also think that healthy food is not tasty. You know what I mean? And that's not necessary. And sometimes it's not tasty because our taste buds are so used to processed foods. And don't forget, processed foods is food science. Do you know what food science is? It's engineering. It's a course in college. They take it. They actually design they put chemicals in it so that so you can crave it more, and it affects your neurological system because it's all about these chemicals and how it affects our neurological system. And that's why we're addicted to it, and that's why we want it more and more. It's like it's
salt and sugar.
it's really dangerous, and I feel like a lot of fast food do that. They do food science, you know what I mean? And so that's why people are addicted to it, and it's sad, but it's the truth, and the sources, like how it's so corruptive in our environment, what they're doing, and how they do it, and it's so cheap. It's so cheap. Like no one thinks about, we want our food to be very, very cheap, but yet our cars can be really nice. I mean, but this is the most valuable car right here, and the quality of your life. I mean, when you grow older, you want to feel good. You don't want to get pain and suffer and then get sick and just, things like that. I just think there is ways to get healthy, and it's just so simple. It's really not complicated. Just eat real food and you're gonna feel better. You know what I mean? So that's, yeah. Eat
Were there
real
any
food.
other questions for Omar? I know he could talk to us till midnight.
I can. I really can.
But awesome. I liked what you said, just to close and just to paraphrase what you said, Omar. I liked when you said the diet, it's gonna take work. Giving yourself a good diet takes work, and you know, it's the most important car that you're gonna have. You've gotta invest in the food that you put in the body. So
Yeah.
thanks so much for coming in, man. Awesome having you here.
And we would love to have you for the rest of this.
Yeah, no, I think that's it. That like making a sauerkraut or kimchi or something that can like, you know what I mean? Like, I love these things. I mean, you know, if you go to a farmer's market, you know, like, you know, getting food, different foods, and making it like I can go to farmer's market and bring a whole bunch of things and show you something. You know what I mean? It's just so easy. Gazpacho is really popular in the summertime, so it's really nice to like take tomatoes and take like kale and cilantro and dill and make a nice gazpacho. Know what herbs to mix to make flavors work for you. You know what I mean? Like dill and cilantro and basil are really good to mix it together. Or sorry, no, dill and cilantro is a great mix. You know, and also to understand, like when you make food, your taste buds have 5 senses. It's the sweet, bitter, savory, salty, and sweet. Did I say that? Sour. So if you can make food that has a bit of each of these, that's when your food becomes very flavorful. You know what I mean? And so I love, like, there's, you know, Thai food, they have basil, cilantro, and mint. And those are really good to mix together, for example, to create something tasty. You know what I'm saying? It's also understanding, you know, little things to kind of mix together to create like euphoria in your mouth, you know, and then it's enjoyable.
Well, Omar is like a food genius. Right.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. If we do, yeah, that's what I'm saying. If we do like a cooking class, like I can like introduce different flavors or sauces, for example, to make like for a salad dressing, that would be easy. You know what I mean? So I think that's what I find people get stuck is not knowing how to utilize all these amazing things that we can get from farmers market, but not knowing how to put it together and make it tasty. You know what I mean? And I think that's you know, but that's all to it. So, but just go on YouTube. If, you know, say, hey, gazpacho. Like, there's so many people. The YouTube is huge. You know what I mean? And you know, so. Yeah, so thank you so much, Josiah, for letting me come. And